Hi guys, it's Rob from Sonic State here. Today we're taking a look at the TC Electronic Mini series, the Vortex, the Korona, the Shaker and the Flashback. Just to give you an idea of the signal path, we're going Fender Modern Player Tele through Quantum Leads, straight into a Vox Bruno, and in the effects loop we have the Vortex, followed by the Korona, followed by the Shaker, followed by the Flashback. Okay, so what are the Mini series? The Mini series are basically shrunk versions of the standard TC pedals that they've been releasing over the last few years. Imagine putting it in the tumble dryer and forgetting that it's there. So Flashback, for example, is a really great pedal. I love it. And you've got 1,000,001 features on it. Now, I have a habit of picking one setting and just sticking with it and not really changing it ever, because I just want a little bit of delay to add over the top of the track that I'm playing. So for me, this is, well, it's great because it's got the sound that I want, but it's also got 1,000,001 other things that I'm never going to use. The Flashback Mini doesn't have 1,000,001 other things, and it takes up a tiny footprint. So I find the sound that I want, I put it on my board, I leave it there, and it's an on-off, leave it and, well, set and forget, basically. So with the Flashback, what you've got is feedback, FX level, and delay, which, compared to the other one, you've got feedback, delay, and FX level. So it's the same three dials. What you've lost is the selection of type of delay that you use and the little switch for changing the timing of each note. That's not a big deal to me because, as I said before, I set it and forget it. I put it on tape, I leave it, and I just go. That's it, set. They've still included the press and hold to set your tap tempo. So they've still got that feature of them, which is great because it allows you to set your tempo without having to have a separate button for tap. Now, I've had a Flashback for the last couple of years, so I'm fairly used to how it works. I have absolutely no experience of the Vortex, the Korona, or the Shaker, so I'm taking these at face value. They haven't been released yet. We have no real instruction manual with them, so let's go through them one by one. Okay, the Vortex is a flange pedal. I've never really had much need for a flanger pedal because I think they sound ridiculous. However, I know that some people do enjoy them. They're very 80s. Going through this one very quickly, you have a speed dial, a depth dial, and a feedback dial, which are obviously fairly self-explanatory. The one thing I will say is these pedals feel solid as hell. They're brilliant. They're rock steady. They feel really well made. TC have done a good job of that. Okay, so let's see what the Vortex sounds like. Or I'm not, as I say, a flanger player, so this is probably going to sound really weird, but... Okay, so let's up the speed and increase the depth and feedback, because that just seems to be the thing to do. Make more is more. So it can be used as a fairly subtle effect, but most of the time it's just there for... Quite a nice sounding pedal. I, again, don't have a use for it, but I know that anybody that uses a flange pedal probably will. If you want that for one sound, then it's kind of a good way of going because it's a small footprint. Korona is a chorus pedal. I love choruses. I don't actually have one on my pedal board because I have no need for one, but I've always loved them since hearing things like way back when, like Come As You Are. It's the classic kind of really massive, fat chorus sound. Let's see what we can get out of this. Depth is always good. Let's whack the depth up. Speed, bring it back a bit, and a lot of effects levels, so you get kind of like a... This pedal is a lot deeper than I thought, so we'll take some of the depth out, I think. Just play around with it a little bit more. We got effects level, bring that back up. Increase the speed a little bit. Let's see what that sounds like. Oh, much better. Again, a set and forget pedal, but a really good, really nice sounding one. Right, the shaker. Now, vibrato. I've always been confused by vibrato pedals because I can kind of do vibrato by going like... But this lets you do it in a ridiculous way. Bit more like... I find them very similar to a tremolo pedal in that they have a kind of almost a very set use and a very particular sound of music that uses it. Personally, I have absolutely no use for it. However, in the process of just trying to get to know these pedals, I've really fallen in love with this little thing because you can make some really cool kind of... Add a bit of delay in as well. You can get some really cool... So in summary, what we've got are 4 new mini little teeny tiny pedals with a very small form factor. Now that being said, there are a few things that I don't like about them. For one, they've got soft switches on them, which don't have a proper click to the end of them. So for example, the Flashback, decent solid click, I know it's been pressed. MXRs, for example, very much the same. Now when I'm on stage and you stand on a pedal and you get that little click from underneath your foot, you know the pedal's come on, assuming that nothing's gone wrong internally, but we'll write that off for the moment anyway. You know that when you step away, it's going to be on. You don't have to double check. With these, I tend to kind of go, did I press that? Is it on or is it off? You have to double check, which to me isn't great. Okay, form factor. It would have been nice if they could have loaded the pedals from the top, the jacks from the top, sorry, but I get that that's not always possible with something this small. So the pedal is still actually this wide. I'm using George L cables. They're not the biggest, but they're also not the smallest. So the pedal is still this wide, which is, granted, less wide than this, with jacks coming out the side. And last but not least, the current draw on these things is mad. They're 100 milliamps each. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot, but most Boss power supplies are 400, maybe 500 milliamps tops. So you can daisy chain, supposedly, 5 of these things from it. Now, the power supply that we're using is 450 milliamps. When we plugged in all 4 of these, we should have 50 milliamps spare. It did start to hum. Okay, yes, it's not the best power supply in the world. However, according to the 100 milliamp current draw, it should have no problem, and it did. So that's something to bear in mind. If you think about something like the MXR Distortion, the M78 draws 6 milliamps. The carbon copy for MXR draws 26, there's a delay. The Boss DD7 draws, I think, somewhere around 55 milliamps, and then the DD20 draws 200. So these sit fairly high up the scale of milliampage draw. Good things I like. TonePrint compatible, that's great, because, yep, okay, the sound I like straight away from the chorus, which is, as I haven't changed this is just as they come out of the box. Is really nice, but if I do want to change it, I can. The TonePrint editor enables me to do that. What else do I like? I like the fact that they are small. They will sit on a pedal board. Like the Hall of Fame Mini, for example, is now at the end of my pedal chain on my pedal board. It's tucked in just behind a bigger pedal because it's just an always on, never switch it off. You don't even know it's there, but it adds that bit of reverb that you always want. The form factor isn't gimmicky. It is actually quite useful to have something this small, especially if it's doing a very simple job, if it's not a particularly complicated pedal. Would I buy one? Yes. I'd not have the Vortex because I don't really have a use for a flanger. I would buy the Korona because I really do like it. And I would buy the Vibrato. Flashback, definite exchange. I will sell this and I will switch it out for that. I don't use a lot of delay sounds. I'm not a big kind of soundscapey, whooshy swooshy kind of guitarist. I prefer just having little trails at the end of certain things, and the Mini one does it perfectly for me. I don't need something that size on my board. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you again next time.